Hello, I am back, Dwayne Allen Guitar Concepts, with a new kind of a talk or a rant or a lesson. You can kind of frame that in any of those three ways. Hopefully, you guys have been great. I haven't seen you in a long time. I apologize. I've been very busy with life, and I'm in summer right now. As you guys probably know, I teach in some colleges and private lessons and gigs and everything, and I haven't been posting on my lesson channel in a long time, so I apologize for that. I'm trying to get better about it, but we'll see how it goes. You know how it goes with me. You never know what's going to happen. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit today about something that I've been thinking about for a while with my students and with a lot of guitar players in general who are learning. One of the things that I learned early on when I had my teacher, Vincent Bridice, was he was used to tell us that we want to be a musician and not just a guitar player. And I've always taken that seriously. And when I teach my students, I always try to enforce that same kind of concept, right? What does that mean when you're a musician? So there's all different kinds of people who play instruments, right? There's guitar players, there's musicians. To me, a musician is just someone who is well versed in music in general, theory, reading, technique, all that kind of stuff, even history, different kinds of music, that kind of a thing. That's someone that's a well-rounded, well-trained musician. And, there's a lot of people who just play guitar for fun and everything, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I wanted to talk about today a little bit more is how important it is for you guys to really know theory, okay? This is not really going to be much of a lesson, but more just as far as just what I think a lot of guitar players need to work on. So, like for instance, one of the things that as guitar players, we have a unique way of learning. Let's say you're learning a scale form, right? Or an arpeggio form. As guitar players, we're often given like a chord grid with the notes of the scale written out or whatever, and we memorize the fingering pattern, we practice it over and over, and we might even take it through different keys on the guitar neck. I can do it in G, I can do it in B flat or C or whatever, and it's a movable form. And that's great because you can learn a new scale or a new arpeggio chord too, fairly quickly, and you memorize the pattern and you can play it. The problem is that I notice with a lot of guitarists and a lot of students of mine is that they'll play the pattern, but they don't really know what notes they're playing. They're just playing a pattern. Like here's G major, right? And they know, okay, here's the root G. And they play the scale, but they don't really know what notes are in G major scale. And they may not even know the key signature for G major. And this is a unique thing for guitar players because pianists, saxophone players, violinists, whatever, any instrument, they don't use chord grids and tabs and things like that. When a saxophone player is practicing scales, he has a book of scales and he's reading the scales, reading the notes up and down. And so everything that they're playing, they know every note that they're playing. They know B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, or whatever. They know these notes. And guitar players, because of our movable patterns, a lot of us don't know that. And that's something that I think is really important for you to work on. If you're playing a tune and you're playing an E flat major 7, you should know what notes are in an E flat major 7. You should know it's E flat G, B flat D, right? You need to know that, just not as a guitar player, but as a musician, okay? So how important is this if you play blues or rock or pop or whatever? Maybe not as important as if you're a jazz musician, because just jazz is a much more complex kind of music that uses theory in a deeper way than, say, like a blues tune or a pop tune or whatever. However, I still think that we all should try to be the best musician that we can be and have as much knowledge as possible. When you're learning a scale, you should know it three ways, okay? The fingering here, right? The ear here, where you hear the sound of the scale, but then you need to know up here, what is that scale? What are the notes in the scale? What's the key signature, okay? So, okay, how does one get better at theory and memorization and things like that? one of the things that I give my students is, and I'm probably going to attach a PDF to this video so you can have it. This is not an in-depth lesson, but I'll give you something to use. But anyway, I give my students a PDF that has all 12 major keys, but they're written down in notation, okay? So to do this, you have to be able to read music, okay? I gave another talk a long time ago about the importance of learning how to read music, especially if you're playing jazz music. Because when you go to a jazz jam session or a gig, no one's going to give you tabs, right? A sax player or a vocalist or a pianist, they're going to give you a lead sheet, the melody and the chord changes, right? If you can't read music, you're not going to be able to play that tune. Now, even if you have a great ear, which some people do, but it's still pretty rare, it doesn't matter, because if you're on a gig and someone puts a tune down, boom, play it, go, you don't have time to learn it by ear. You have to read it. Okay, I was off on a tangent on reading, but let's get back to the assignment that I was going to talk about. So I give my students a page that has all 12 major scales written out in notation. So you're reading the notes, usually maybe first position or maybe fifth position, depends upon how good your reading is. But you're reading the scale. So let's say you're reading a C major scale. What I tell my students to do is always think about the key signature first, right? Okay, key of C, all natural, no sharps, no flats. And then as you're playing the notes of the scale, you're saying the names of the notes, right? So like, let's say you're playing the notes C major and you're going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. What's even better than that is you're reading it and you're saying the notes, but you're singing the notes. I have a terrible voice, but C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? You do that, okay? Now, is this fun to do, and is it sexy, and is it hip? No, it's not. It's boring. It's basics. It's not sexy at all, but it will really, really help you in the long run, and I'll explain why in a minute. So then you do the key of G, right? And you think of key signature. Key G has F sharp, and you go G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and you play the whole scale through. And you do this with every scale, one after the other. Maybe you do 2 or 3 keys a week. Get good at doing that. Be able to, if someone asked you on the street, D major, go, F sharp, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, right? Hope I didn't skip a note. But be able to recite any scale at the drop of a hat, key signature, notes of the scale quickly without even thinking about it. If you can't do that, it's like being in math and not knowing your times tables. You're going to really be limited, okay? Now, let's say you're able to do that in all 12 keys, okay? That's good. Then the other thing you should do is just use that as like a template to practice other kinds of theory stuff. Like, for instance, like building chords, like going back to C major and saying, okay, I'm going to practice saying all my 7th chords out loud. So you would say C major, right? You have all natural, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then you, as if you know theory, you would know that it's 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th of the scale. So you say those notes out loud. C, E, G, B. Okay, and then you say C dominant 7, C, E, G, B flat. And then C minor 7, C, E flat, G, B flat, C. Obviously, you need to know a little bit of theory, like what's the difference between a major 7 and a dominant 7 and a minor 7 and so forth, right? I used to teach a theory class in a high school, and one of the first things I would do the first day is I would give this sheet out with all the major scales written out. And I would have the students recite the scales, but quickly, like by rote. I would say, okay, Sarah, tell me A flat. And then she would tell me the key signature and then all the notes. But it's got to be quickly where you're not thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, that's not good. You got to be quick at it. And this is something that I worked on when I was in high school. I would just recite these over and over and over and get quick at it. So being able to go any key, I just did the key of C, right? And then you have, okay, a key of A flat, A flat major 7, A flat C, E flat G, A flat dominant 7, A flat C, E flat G flat, A flat minor 7, A flat C flat, E flat G flat, right? Being able to do that, any chord, any key, at the drop of a hat, very quickly. The more mental practice that you do like this, the less you think on the gig. The biggest impediment to improvising that I see with my students is they don't know their guitar neck well enough. They don't know theory well enough. They're thinking all the time. People used to say, "Oh, if you learn music theory, it'll take away your creativity and make you think." That's bullcrap. That's just lazy. That only happens if you kind of know it. If you know it deeply, inside and out, right? Then you know it and you don't have to think about it. When I improvise, I don't think at all. I just play because I've done all the work where I memorize all this stuff, right? So you go through all the keys and you say those out loud. And there's a million things you can do with this, Then you could say, okay, let me memorize the diatonic chords of C major, right? And you would need to know what they are, like the formula. The 1 chord is major 7, the 2 chords minor 7, 3 chords minor 7, 4 chords major 7, 5 chords dominant 7, 6 chords minor 7, 7th chord minor 7 flat 5. I don't expect you to learn that from this video right now, but this is one of the things you should learn when you're learning theory, right? So then you say, okay, I'm going to do the diatonic chords of C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, flat 5. But you got to be able to do it quickly. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, that kind of thing. You want to be able to know it inside out like the back of your hand. Every key, A flat, F sharp, weird keys like that, right? D flat, whatever. Be able to do it in any key quickly at the drop of a hat. That way, you start to, when you're learning a tune, you'll start to see the patterns in the keys and you'll say, oh, that's a 2-5-1 progression in A or in F or whatever. You'll start to see the patterns and everything just gets so much easier, okay? That's the next thing you could possibly do. You could say, I'm going to say all the 2-5-1s in each key, right? If you don't know what a 2-5-1 is, learn that, But this is not a theory lesson on all these things. This is just telling you a great way to practice these things where you can memorize them and have them at quick recall, If you're studying music, then you're probably getting familiar with all these things. And this is something that seriously, like I've taught students that were in a theory class in a college, right? And I would ask them, are you learning theory? And they go, yeah, I got it. And I would say, okay, what's a 2-5-1 in C? And they'd be like, and I'm like, that's not good. Too slow. You got to be quick. You got to know it up here, right? So this is what you would do, key of C, 2-5-1, D minor 7, G dominant 7, C major 7. Next key, same thing. It's just memorization and rote. It's not sexy. It's not fun. No one on YouTube some people on YouTube, but Instagram, TikTok, they're not going to talk about this stuff. They're going to show you a blazing, fast, cool lick. But that's meaningless if you don't know this stuff. If you don't know this stuff quickly and easily, then you're just going to always struggle, And when you know all of these things, then it helps when you're playing like a chord form. Like let's say you're playing, okay, I know a C major 7, this C major 7 right here on the 3rd fret. Okay, what's the voicing of this? It's root, 5th, 7th, 3rd. C, G, B, E, right? Okay, so how do I make it a dominant 7? I lower the 7th a half step, right? How do I make it a minor 7? I have a flat 7, then I lower the 3rd, which is right here. Then you get the idea? But if you don't know the notes of a C major, C, E, G, B, or C dominant 7, C, E, G, B flat, then you're just looking at a chord voicing and you don't know what's in there. You don't know how to make it a minor, how to make it a dominant. And that's where this memorization stuff can really help you, I think, I do this with my students and it really can help because I had that theory class I was telling you about and I would drill these kids every day. And I'd call on them randomly. If I thought somebody was like dozing off or whatever, I'd definitely call on that person. Hey, Johnny, what's the 3 chord in A flat, C minor 7? Spell C minor 7, C, E flat, G, B flat, right? That kind of a thing. Be able to do this stuff. It's work. It's not fun. It's not sexy, but you got to do it. if you do it and you're consistent about it, then it opens up everything else. Okay. So I hope you got something out of that. I'll try and attach my PDF files to this video, but if not, you can look up a scale sheet of major scales and things like that. If you like this video, click subscribe, click like. I have a lot of other teaching videos. It's been a long time. My other teaching videos are much more specific on one little thing, but this is more of a talk or a rant that I've needed to address. But I do teach guitar lessons, usually people different around the country, even around the world, usually do Zoom or whatever. But I can help you with things like this if you're interested. Improvisation, jazz improvisation, blues, rock, if you want to learn. But these are things that I work on with my students. Hit me up through the video. You can email me through the video. Check out my other YouTube channel, Dwayne Allen Music. That's where I'm just playing snippets from gigs, snippets from my playing at home, gear reviews. I'm a big gear head. But anyway, some food for thought for you guys to think about, and some things to work on. So I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope to be back again soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great night.